What up, what up, what up? What's going on, everybody? Welcome in a very, very special off-season Alarm Fantasy Football. I am Howard Bender. With me, of course, Andrew Cooper. Look at you. You're ready to bob and weave. You're ready to just throw some haymakers out here. It's NFL free agency. I mean, you have been the busiest of campers the last couple of days. What's going on, Coop?
32 articles, 32 days. That's what I want to do every offseason because we want to be ahead of everybody else, right? We want to know because it's not just about free agency, those articles, because we're finding the holes, right? We're finding where these teams need to build, where they need to move guys around, and then we can make predictions for free agency. And we'll obviously talk about all the moves today, where we think guys are going to go. But that builds our foundation for everything else, right? It just sets us up for the draft. I don't know how people are putting out mock drafts before doing any of that research. It's ridiculous to me. But now we're all set up to do it all, right? So we're just going to cruise right on through. Right after this, it's going to be rookies. We're going to do our pre-draft rookie information. Then we're going to do our mock drafts. And then, of course, right into dynasty. But you can't skip free agency. It drives me nuts how many people skip it. So we don't do that here.
No, I mean, listen, there's a ton of signings that have gone on. And, and one of the funny things also is that, everybody always kind of pays attention to the skill position players. If you guys go over to fantasyalarm.com, you go to our NFL page and you check out the free agent tracker. Not only is Coop breaking down with analysis every single one of the players, the skill position players, and the impact that they're going to have on their teams, but it's also who's beefing up that offensive line, what defensive moves are happening right now, right? We're watching the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles systematically dismantle that defense that Vic Fangio built and helped win that Super Bowl last year. So, all of the impact, I mean, that's going to dramatically affect. I think that a lot of people go under the radar there with certain defensive moves, but let's face it, if you've got a crappy defense, your offense better be a run and gun offense, and you better be throwing the football a ton. So everything is connected 100%. And listen,
to your point on the defense, we've seen this happen multiple times now, right? We saw it with Peyton Manning, right? He went out and threw like 49 touchdown passes, and the team won 12 games. The next year, defense gets better, running game gets better. They win 14 games. He only throws like 26. Patrick Mahomes had to throw 50 touchdown passes because the defense is trash. Now that it's good, I mean, they won. Do they feel like a team that won 15 regular season games last year? I mean, Patrick Mahomes won 15 games, and the defense was just better. So it's important. You got to know all that stuff in fantasy, So we go into all of it, dude. Let's go.
We do go into all of it. And listen, we thank everybody for tuning in here right now. If you're watching on Twitter or Twitch, X, whatever, hop on over to our YouTube page, give us a like and a subscribe. You never want to miss it because Coop and I are going to be doing these little guerrilla football shows on the regular here because of the way the progression goes with the off season. So we don't want you guys to miss out on anything. If you have questions, drop them into the chat. We are more than happy to talk to you guys about everything that's going on, especially for you Dynasty Fantasy Football people who are, let's face it, you're making crazy trades right now. I mean, I've had so many people hit me up with a bunch of stuff. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Before we dive into it, Coop, I got to give you a little shout out here. Well, it's not really for you. This is my new guy.
Come on. It says Coop on there.
It says Coop here. Coop's Collectibles. I would just shout it out here. He's my own personal sponsor. I'm going to give a shout out to Juneau, Alaska's finest, Coop's Collectibles. Over on Mendenhall Mall Road. If you guys are over there, he restocks Pokemon pretty quickly for those of you Pokemon fans. But I mean, listen, the football info, the football memorabilia, the football cards there, the baseball cards, everything that he's got over there. He's even got a little comic book collection section over there. And I met Dave Cooper, the owner, when my wife and I were in there. So I just wanted to shout it out over here. And throw the old Coop's Collectibles.
I just worry that I'm getting pushed down the rankings. It's like you got Coop's Collectibles, you got your YouTuber, the other Coop that gives away Pokemon cards. You've got Ani Coop in the chat. Ani Coop. I understand a lot of people rank Ani Coop ahead of me. Linda has always ranked Ani Coop. I mean, we got Laney, we got Lou. I mean, am I even top 10 anymore? Like, I just feel like I'm losing my spot in the Coop rankings every day.
I'll keep you're still top 3 in my book, but Dave Cooper here, and then Ani Coop. I mean, who doesn't love Ani Coop,
I know.
right?
That one I gave up on that one a long time ago. Ani Coop number 1. You know what I mean? But top 3, I'm just trying to hold my standing on the somewhere on the podium is where I need to be. Okay.
Well, I don't want to make you feel bad, so I'll tell you what I'm going to do here, Coop. I don't want you to feel bad and feel like you're too far down in the rankings. So I'll come back and I'll rep Fantasy Alarm, and I'll leave my new favorite sponsor right here.
It's a nice hat. It's a nice.
It is right. It's a great hat, dude.
I can't, dude. Can you get me one of those hats? Can you bring it to the expo or whatever, dude?
Maybe. But I'll tell you what. We'll pop it.
I'm the one wearing Coop's hat.
We'll pop it right up there. We'll keep it on the full display, right? Fantasy football champion, Coop's Collectibles, a variety of awards. I think I even got some Lego up here, top.
Pretty good setup, dude.
Yes, and my ultimate tourist Juneau, Alaska sweatshirt here.
Yeah. How was the trip, real quick, before we get into it?
It was phenomenal. Yeah. So much to talk about here, but I know, listen, NFL free agency takes the forefront. But I'll say this: Juneau, Alaska, absolutely spectacular. Very much looking forward to moving up there. Awesome. Very much looking forward to it.
That's great. Because I worry a little bit that you're going to get up there and check it out and not like it. So, dude, the fact that you love it up there, man, it's the dream. The dream.
Baller time up there. So good. And yeah, I mean, listen, I could go off on it forever and ever and ever, and then shout out Coop's Collectibles over and over again. But I'll tell you what, we'll probably do some fantasy football drafts from Coop's Collectibles, from McGivney's Sports Pub, which is right over there on Mendenhall Mall Road as well. So I've got the areas all locked down. Fantasy football, fantasy sports going to be blowing up in Juneau very, very soon. But let's do what we're here for here, Coop. Yes. We are here to talk NFL. We're here to talk free agency. Again, check out everything that Coop's got over at fantasyalarm.com. It is free. I encourage everybody to subscribe. Right, you got the ticker going down here at the bottom of the page with a promo code Let's Go to give you 50% off your first month. But all the NFL stuff that we're doing right now, including 80,000 words on NFL free agency. Coop did articles for every single team. It is one of the most comprehensive and fulfilling, informative series that I've seen in anywhere on the interweb. So very proud to say that our FSWA Football Writer of the Year. Yeah, see, right? You got to give you the. Nice. Were you just voguing?
We haven't done a show. You got to show it up. Well, we haven't done a show since then, so it is funny. We kind of let it cool. We let things cool down. But just for folks out there that were wondering, Fantasy Alarm won all the awards. We just won them all, all the big ones too. We got Football Writer of the Year, Football Article of the Year, Radio Show of the Year. You can hear Howard Bender every night, 6 to 8 p.m. on Sirius XM Channel 87. I'll be on tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. I mean, big year for Fantasy Alarm. We crushed. Thing is, this year needs to be even better. That's why we didn't take the foot off the gas. 80,000 words, draft tracker, rankings. Guess what we're doing next Wednesday? First family best ball draft of the year. Ooh. We're getting them going, dude.
Let's go.
Yes, it's happening, dude. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that supports us, because no awards, none of this happened without you guys. Everybody in the chat, and we see you guys hanging out in there. Fatty McFat saying the boys are back. I mean, dude, it is funny, Howard. We haven't been gone for that long, but just a couple weeks off, man. It's too long. It's too long. So we're back. We're back. We're up and running every Wednesday moving forward. Jerry saying he misses doing the shows. We're back, baby. We're here.
We're back and we're ready to go. So let's just get right to it now.
Yeah.
Right. The introduction is over. It's time for the meat and potatoes. You just had your little appetizer. Here we go. Let's start off with, we'll start off with the signings. So let's start off with the main signings. We'll go with our skill positions here, because that's going to be the most impactful for a lot of dynasty fantasy football trades. We'll start at the quarterback position, right? And I think that, we've got a couple of good signings there. We can go one by one. I guess the hot commodity for everybody really at quarterback was Sam Darnold, who lands with the Seattle Seahawks, 3 years, $110 million. It's now Clint Kubiak who's running the offense over there. I've done offensive breakdowns all over the place here. Do you like this fit for Sam Darnold, who has Jackson Smith-Njigba and suddenly nobody else?
Yeah, I think so. I think what they want to do is they realize Clint Kubiak realize that his offense is so much different than many offenses out there, right? You've talked about it a ton. That you need specific personnel, including a fullback, to run it, right? To run like this, the zone run schemes, these things. And this time they said, hey, you know what? We're going to take our time and do it the right way. And we might not be ready to compete right away. I mean, I know every team wants to. That's the dream. But they're basically saying, hey, you know what? Whoever's not going to be part of this plan long term for we're talking 3, 4, 5 years has got to go. Geno Smith, 34 years old, they traded him. They looked at DK Metcalf at 27 even and said, hey, you know what? We're not going to pay this guy a multi-year deal. Let's trade him. He got traded to the Steelers. And they looked at Sam Darnold and said, hey, you know what? This guy fits our timeline. He plays very clean football, I will say, Howard. And what I mean by that is like you don't often see delay a game, fumbled snaps, fumbles, right? Like he not necessarily a guy that puts the team on his back, but clean football. And I think when you have the pre-snap motion that Kubiak runs and the fullback and Kenneth Walker and that style of play, I think it's going to work out okay for him. So some people are like complaining about the lateral boom move. Incumbent Seahawks fans, like fans of the team, never like these moves, right, Howard? Because you just want to be loyal to Geno. And if you're going to move on from Geno, you want like the obvious upgrade. So there's a lot of people that are just like that. You know what I mean? It's like it's hard being a fan, but from an unbiased perspective, I think it's good. I think it's the right move.
I think it's a fine move. Listen, I've never been a big Geno Smith fan, and I'm not going to be a big Geno Smith fan. I think the Raiders kind of made a little mistake. And I get it with the familiarity that Pete Carroll has with Geno Smith. Okay, fine, but still, it's not something that I really like. I think Sam Darnold technically is a better quarterback than Geno Smith. And what I think also, and this is the important thing, is that we know the style of offense that Clint Kubiak likes to run, and we know that he's going to be very bullish on the running game, which is something that Mike Macdonald wanted, right? Mike Macdonald's big criticism of Ryan Grubb was that the offense was too pass heavy for him. He wanted something a little bit more conservative, a little more old school. He's going to get that with Kubiak, who's already picked up. I think they already picked up a fullback as well, so they're ready to kind of run with that. It's Kenneth Walker, it's Zach Charbonnet. What I think that does is it takes the pressure off of Sam Darnold. Does he have a Justin Jefferson now? No, he does not. But I think in a more conservative, less pass heavy offense what Kevin O'Connell likes to run in Minnesota, I think you're going to keep Sam Darnold efficient. It might not be huge for fantasy purposes, but from reality standpoint here, it is going to boost the Seahawks.
Yeah, and we can just wrap the Seahawks talk by saying this. I think look for them to target a speedy wide receiver in the draft, not necessarily just a field stretcher, but somebody that can play in that like Rashid Shaheed type role, or somebody that they don't, because of all the 2 tight end sets and the fullback, they don't necessarily need a big split end like DK Metcalf. They can have JSN in that Chris Olave or Brandon Ayuk type role, and then you have another kind of not necessarily gadgety type guy, but maybe in that Deebo Samuel, Rashid Shaheed, Jalen Waddle type role. So look for that in the draft. I think, again, we're going to really dive in on the rookie stuff, but I've been hearing names like Matthew Golden as like a type guy for that type situation. But anyway, let's get back in the free agents.
All right. Justin Fields signs a 2-year, $40 million deal with the New York Jets. I'm the resident Jets fan here. It is definitely a positive move overall for the organization. To me, Justin Fields is a bridge quarterback. Maybe it's Jordan Trask who's going to be developed further coming back from injury. Maybe the Jets are looking at somebody in the draft to develop down the road. But I'm not bullish on Justin Fields, and I'll tell you why, Coop. Just because he loves to run the football. He's not a strong passer. I get that he's got some rapport with Garrett Wilson dating back to college. I don't think that's enough at the NFL level. He needs to be a cleaner, better passer in the NFL. I also think it devalues Breece Hall a little bit because, once they're in inside the red zone, Justin Fields is going to take off as much as he possibly can because that's what he does. That's all he knows. And that to me is a little bit of an issue there for the side pieces for the New York Jets. But I think overall, it can be a positive move for them as an organization.
I will say one thing about there are some different moves that have happened here that I like or dislike. What I do like about this one is that it's a very high risk, high reward move. right? Because if he does take a step forward and develop and you win a bunch of games, then maybe you have your guy. But this is also the kind of guy that could potentially faceplant. The worst thing you could do is bring in a Flacco or Brissett or even let Tyrod Taylor start. And then that guy wins you like 6 or 7 games. And now you're just in no man's land where you're not getting a top pick, but you're also not making the playoffs. So I do like the high risk, high reward nature of a guy like this because it's like, you know what? We're going to see what it looks like. And if it looks real ugly, well, guess what? Now you have a top pick in next year's class, which is a much better quarterback class than this one.
I'll take a shot on him as a QB2 in drafts. In a single QB league, I'll take my top quarterback, whether it's, I mean, listen, there's a ton of guys that I can cite here right now. I'm not going to say that I'm going to lean on Justin Herbert next year, but that's a different story. But like Justin Fields to me is a good QB2. There's upside, there's potential. And as a backup, if he does thrive in this environment, well, then you've got a guy who probably didn't cost you much more than a 12th round pick.
Bingo. And you just drop him. You know what I mean? If he doesn't pop, you drop him, which is the case for basically your entire bench.
If you don't pop, you drop.
If you don't pop, you drop. There it is, dude. I mean, like people just underestimate. People are like, oh, I can't draft a second quarterback because I need to have Gus Edwards on my bench. It's like you severely underestimate how much of your bench you're going to churn. So you might as well draft those high risk guys, see what it looks like for 1-2 games, and then get them out.
Colts bring in Daniel Jones, a 1-year deal. Obviously, he's going to compete with Anthony Richardson. You cannot look at what Anthony Richardson's body of work has been since becoming an NFL quarterback and say that you have full confidence in him being able to lead this team, let alone stay healthy. Do you like this move for Daniel Jones?
Love it. I love it for everybody. I think it's a super smart move by the Colts, to be honest, because when you have Joe Flacco and Joe Flacco and Anthony Richardson in the same room, right? The analysis was always going to be the same. You're going to watch this, and Flacco is going to be the better thrower, but then you're going to say to yourself, well, Anthony Richardson brings this other element. So you are never going to be able to compare those guys apples to apples. Now you have a guy in the room that has enough mobility that if he is blowing Anthony Richardson out of the water in all the drills, in all the meetings, everything is just better in terms of reading plays and passing, then you can't turn around and say, well, they're rushing, right? But if he comes in and both guys are kind of on the same page in terms of passing, then you go with Anthony Richardson. It's the perfect litmus test, right? Like it just it actually will show you if you have a guy or not. I think it's great. I think it's perfect. And if somebody gets hurt, now you have a viable guy. And they're trying to win now. I mean, they have Jonathan Taylor. They have Michael Pittman. I mean, on paper, they got a lot of good pieces. Quentin Nelson. And they just loaded up on defense as well. They grabbed two great guys for the secondary. It was Cameron Bynum, Travarius Ward. I mean, they're trying to win.
Yeah, Colts definitely looking to make a move. Listen, it's a soft division, right? I mean, we'll see what happens with the Houston Texans and, can CJ Stroud take that step back? But the Colts, with the components that they do have there, on offense and defense now, I think they're definitely looking to make that move in a soft AFC South. Now, other quarterback signings, trades, stuff like that. Nobody who's a QB1, but this could definitely have some impact on the pressure that it puts on the team's QB1. Kenny Pickett was traded to the Browns. We know that Deshaun Watson's not playing over there right now. So Kenny Pickett might get a little call here. Zach Wilson signs as the backup in Miami. And we know Tua's health risks over there. Jarrett Stidham goes behind, our good friend Drew.
Next.
Yeah, Bo Nix. I almost said Drew Lock there.
That was close. You caught it.
So
you
close.
caught it.
Stidham with the Broncos. Josh Dobbs goes to the Patriots. Jacoby Brissett lands with the Cardinals. So a little swap of backup QBs there. Out of those, those kind of secondary, tertiary guys here, Coop, is there anybody who really stands out the most for you?
I think that a lot of them are smart moves. The Kenny Pickett one's interesting just because they could just throw him out there. You know what I mean? I know that Myles Garrett doesn't want to see it. He wants them to compete. But if you go Kenny Pickett and a rookie, he could potentially get some snaps. I think that the Broncos probably should have another quarterback besides Jarrett Stidham. Stidham is very smart by all reports and is a good player coach type guy. But they're a playoff team. So I don't know if you have to start a backup for 5 games, I don't know if Jarrett Stidham can win you 2. And that's what you need out of a backup. That's why I love Jacoby Brissett to the Cardinals, because if something happens to Kyler, he can keep things afloat. I just don't know if Stidham can. So yeah, and so I want to ask Howard, do you want to just hit on the free agent quarterbacks now, or should we hit positions on people that signed and then circle back? How do you want to play this today?
I mean, listen, man, I'm perfectly fine. If you want to talk about best QBs who are still available right now, I mean, the big question, you know what? I was scrolling through TikTok last night, and there was like, it was like a real big close up of like this woman's face, right? And she's like, obviously it's like the no makeup and the hair pulled back, and the caption is me checking the NFL news every 2 minutes to make sure Aaron Rodgers is not on my team. And she's like real close and tapping the screen, stuff like that. And I'm laughing my ass off. I mean, that is the big one right there. And it sounds like it's either going to be the Steelers or the Giants. And I am praying, because I don't want to hear, Josh Wagner and Shan Blunt whining like little crybabies on the Fantasy Alarm Show day in, day out, because Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback. I would much rather just troll my darling, beautiful wife, who is a diehard Giants fan, all season long with Aaron Rodgers being her QB. That's my wish list. I'm going to manifest that.
Oh yeah, the Giants fans that gave Jets fans a hard time, I think they deserve that. I would also say I do like for Kirk Cousins or an Aaron Rodgers. I'm not sure they'd want to do it. I do like the Cleveland Browns as a landing spot for those much older guys, just because you get them in, they play 1 year. If they're the guy, now you can turn to Deshaun Watson and be like, hey, we got this guy. You got to go. Like, wait, let's waive the no trade clause. Let's figure out somewhere for you to go. If you bring him in and it doesn't work, I mean, you have Deshaun Watson under contract. You can't get out of the deal this year or next year. He'll be there in 2026 unless he gets traded and he has a no trade clause. So I feel like doing a Cousins or a Rodgers for 1 year while Watson has the Achilles and cannot play kind of makes sense, because then if it doesn't work, you just say, okay, Watson will give you one last chance in 2026. And then if that doesn't work, he's out. So I kind of do like the 1 year quarterback for the Browns. I know people want them to draft Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders, but it does make sense to some degree to have a guy come in and play 1 year. And if these guys are 40, 39 years old, those are kind of 1 year, 2 year guys.
Yeah. When the Steelers traded for DK Metcalf, I almost felt like that kind of locked him into Russell Wilson. I don't know what the relationship is between Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf, but the familiarity right there, I think that's kind of seals that fate. I know that the Steelers are still linked to Aaron Rodgers a bunch, but I just feel like, when you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers, it just upsets the apple cart. And do we need him, pissing and moaning to DK Metcalf? Do we need him alienating an already cantankerous George Pickens? Right? Do we want to have Arthur Smith at odds with Aaron Rodgers all season long? Or do they just bring back Russell Wilson and say, you know what? Let's do it. Let's draft somebody. Let's, groom somebody underneath Russell Wilson. He's probably a better teacher than Aaron Rodgers is as well.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And I'll tell you, there is definitely something to familiarity, right? We saw it with the Panthers when they tried to put that team together, like that just island of misfit toys team of Miles Sanders and Adam Thielen and a rookie wide receiver and Jonathan Mingo. Like, nobody knew each other. They didn't know each other. And we've seen real NFL teams that have been together for years. If you don't have a full offseason program, they're not ready. What about the Bengals last year? Nobody practiced all offseason. They came out and they lost to the Patriots, and they didn't make the playoffs because of it. Like, having that continuity and having the timing is huge. I think you're right. I think it's Wilson to the Steelers. It's a huge indictment on Russell Wilson if he is not back with the Steelers.
Yeah.
Huge, right? Because it's like, you traded for his guy and then you don't want him. I don't know. So I think that just makes too much sense.
All right. Who else is out there? We got Jameis Winston is still out there. Mac Jones still out there. You already said Kirk Cousins possibly a 1 year with the Browns could be interesting.
The Cousins one is interesting because the Falcons kind of changed their thoughts, and they kind of said, "Hey, by the way, like we don't have to release this guy, and we'll trade him. Like he's available for trade, but there's no guarantee we cut him." Now, the funny thing about those comments is that 5 days from now, on the 17th, Kirk Cousins gets a $10 million roster bonus. So we don't have to worry about them saying, you know what I mean?
They ain't paying that.
We might just keep him. Well, we'll know 5 days from now. They got to put their money literally where their mouth is on that one. Like, so we'll know if he's going to be on the team or not within 5 days. So these are your 5 days to trade for Kirk Cousins if you want him. Or otherwise, he'll probably be available in free agency. You know what I'm saying? It's just, yeah. And Mac Jones, I think Mac Jones played decently enough for the Jaguars to be one of those guys that goes to the team that drafts the quarterbacks, right? Where it's like if you're planning to, again, the litmus test type player. Zach Wilson was that for the Broncos last year. Great guy to have there when you draft Bo Nix, because we put them next to each other and say, hey, is this guy at least as good as Zach Wilson? Turns out he was right away. And then, you know what? Thanks for stopping by. I think Mac Jones could be that type of guy, because Mac Jones is kind of a vanilla quarterback, but he's accurate enough. He can run an offense. Like, you'll find out if your guy's ready to play week one by standing him up next to Mac Jones. So I don't mind that. If you're a team that's going to go and do that, which there's a few teams out there that are still in that mix, like the Titans, for instance. I mean, the Titans, who are the teams that don't have quarterbacks? It's really just the Steelers, Giants, Browns, Titans, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, I think, Cousins to the Titans definitely makes a lot of sense, only because you can give Will Levis the time to work behind him and just sit, right? I mean, you've got him under contract, right? He's still under his rookie contract. So you might as well, still see. You brought him in for a reason. So whether Brian Callahan likes him or not, whether, he can improve the accuracy that, with which he passes, you can see. But yeah, you bring in a veteran like that. Like, you bring in Mac Jones to kind of lead that Titans offense, and then he's kind of competing. And then you're back and forth here. If you bring in Cousins, that's your starter, at least until he gets hurt.
True. Chuck Bass in the chat. The only show I've ever seen that was positive on Darnold, Jones, Fields, Wilson, Pickett, Mac Jones, and Jacoby Brissett. I don't know if we were necessarily positive on Kenny Pickett, okay? But you know what? There's a landing spot for a lot of these guys. I don't think they're going away just yet.
Yeah, none of these guys, listen, let's face facts. None of these guys are targets for your QB1. Not even Sam Darnold. Like, to me, these are guys now who are your backup QBs. These are the guys who, after everybody's done scooping up the top 12 quarterbacks, on the, in your draft, you're going to want a backup because injuries happen. And now the question is where is your best chance for a legitimate backup? So, listen, Daniel Jones was a huge bust in New York. You know what? There are some guys who just don't play well in New York. We've seen that in every sport.
Dude, I mean, we've seen it with the New York Giants. Evan Ingram left and had the second most receptions of a tight end of all time. Saquon Barkley left and was basically the MVP of the world. You know what I mean? It's like maybe the problem is there, So, and I love what Daniel Jones did. Go to a team. He did the same thing Sam Darnold did. Go to a team that is a winning organization. Sam Darnold left the Jets and the Panthers, saw what it looked like with the 49ers, and then went out in free agency and said, where's a winning team? Vikings, won 14 games. Daniel Jones went there, said here's what it looks like. Now I'll go out and find myself a team. He picked Jim Irsay, which is crazy, but I mean, at least he stopped in Minnesota to give himself that shot. I think Mac Jones, if you're Mac Jones, Howard, how about this? Go sign a cheap, nothing deal, 1-year deal to be the backup for Patrick Mahomes and see what it looks like with the Kansas City Chiefs. See what it looks like with an organization that knows exactly what they're doing. And then potentially maybe, Mahomes gets hurt, you start one game, and then now a team looks at you and says, hey, this guy just played with Andy Reid and absorbed everything over there, and he looked okay in his one start, and now we want to sign him. I mean, that's what I would do if I was Mac Jones or any one of these kind of guys that are on the fringe, right? Like, go see what it looks like in Kansas City.
Before we wrap up some QB talk here, I want to just pop in a little quote here from True Raider. Raiders not going to win anything. Geno getting paid plus never winning a playoff game. No head coach has won a ring with another team too. Shaking my head. Like, I mean, let's tap into this a little bit here. We didn't really discuss it that much, but now you've got Geno Smith. We know the offensive scheme that they're going to be running there, in Las Vegas. You've got not a great fit for Brock Bowers here, whether you're talking offensive coordinator or whether you're talking about Geno Smith as the QB, and you didn't do anything to improve your wide receiver core.
Chip Kelly, dude. That's what they're doing.
Kelly.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, True Raider fan, but I mean, I don't know. It really boils down to you got to believe in Pete. If you're a Raiders fan, you got to believe that Pete Carroll can build that defense, with the big end on one side and play a defensive football. But yeah, I mean, they got work to do for sure. I don't know if Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker Spider-Man meme, like same guy, wide receivers is going to do it. You got to hit in the draft. Got to hit in the draft.
Should be very interesting. One more quickie here. Shout out to my boy Outdoors Dan. Yes. Listen, Outdoor Call Radio app. If you're a hunter, a fisherman, something like that, if you like the outdoors sports, do yourself a favor and download his app. He's great with it, but he's also a fantasy football junkie to the point where he's already plotting his draft strategy for next year. He sent me a picture of his big whiteboard already filled out at home right now. So you're That's a psychopath, awesome. Dan. It's what we love about you. Yes, first 4 picks, running backs, wide receivers, of course. If Rodgers goes to the Giants, will it kill Malik Neighbors? I don't think it kills him, really, because it's just going to be all about the volume, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And he actually threw the ball well, to be honest. Like, you go and look at it was like not necessarily like Tom Brady, but like the volume was there. The statistics were fine. You know what I mean? It was like, though they weren't winning games, but he was letting it fly. Like, there are quarterbacks, like the scary one is more like Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields. That's what you wanted to avoid. You want to avoid like the mobile quarterback, the experimental quarterback. I think that Russell Wilson would be fine. Aaron Rodgers would be fine. Kirk Cousins would probably be fine too, as far as like keeping that volume up. It's a rookie quarterback coming in or like a mobile quarterback that scares you. And when I look at the 9th pick, the first name that comes to mind right now for me, Howard, Brian Thomas Jr. If Brian Thomas Jr. is there, like that, we're talking they ditched. I mean, let's get into wide receivers after this, because that's a big one. Or we can do running backs, whatever you want. But they listen to this. They got rid of Evan Engram in the slot. They got rid of Christian Kirk in the slot. They didn't, as far as we know so far, bring in Cooper Kupp. That sets the table for Brian Thomas Jr. to play that slot flanker role for Liam Cohen, the role that Cooper Kupp played for him in the Rams, the role that Chris Godwin played for him. I mean, it is wheels up, baby. I'm thinking first-round pick for sure for Brian Thomas Jr. as it stands right now.
Well, I think I know he was leaning Brock Bowers with that 9th pick until the Geno Smith news. Yeah. And listen, I'll tell you what, man, there's so much, like, I mean, we'll move on to running back, but just a preview of the tight end talk. Evan Engram in the Joker role in Denver? Please. There's something to think about that, right? Oh, are you okay? Are you all right? Did I trigger something there?
I mean, dude, that's you
need a 15-minute break.
And I'll tell you, I'll give you I'll say this, a little teaser for later in the show. I think there's another spot that is just as good as that. There's 2 spots, 2 premier tight end spots. And if Evan Engram doesn't go there to those teams, we're going to pray that no one goes there, so that some of these rookies can go there, because there are a couple real good rookie tight ends in the draft too. So
okay. All right.
We'll talk tight ends. We got time. Let's get running back.
Something to think about here. Something to think about. Once again, shout it out to everybody, all our friends over at fantasyalarm.com. If you haven't checked out Coop's full NFL free agency series, do yourself a favor. All the NFL content that is sitting on fantasyalarm.com right now, that is 100% free. Check it all out. Read through all the team previews. We'll have all the draft coverage, everything you could possibly need. Coop has been chained to the radiator in his basement, where we finally have let him out for this here show, and the work is second to none. And if you don't subscribe to Fantasy Alarm, well, do yourself a favor, especially if you're a fantasy baseball player. I just did a whole round of updates to the fantasy baseball cheat sheet and all my rankings and stuff like that. So fantasyalarm.com/win, promo code Let's Go gives you 50% off your first month. well worth it. Trust me. And if you play NBA DFS, those boys are hot right now. Hot. Running backs, free agent running backs. Here we go. Aaron Jones re-ups with the Vikings for 2 years. Najee Harris lands with the Chargers. I like that move very much. Jaylen Warren stays with the Steelers. They put a second round restricted free agent tender on him. Jordan Mason stays with the Niners. Elijah Mitchell goes to the Chiefs. Javonte Williams to the Cowboys.
Wow.
And then in an effort to just kill all the value of Jaylen Warren, Arthur Smith also drags in Kenneth Gainwell from the Philadelphia Eagles. Out of all of these moves, I think the one that I like the most is actually Najee Harris. What about you?
Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. It's perfect, dude. You've got a Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman, who are just ground and pound, hard-nosed guys that focus on offensive line, and they have a great quarterback, and they go out and they grab the most hard-nosed running back that has 4 years in a row, back to back to back. Howard, the worst. I don't know why people hate Najee Harris. The worst running back ever to only ever have 1,000-yard seasons, right? It's like I think those guys. I think he's perfect for what they want to do. Couldn't be a better landing spot for Najee Harris. Absolute perfect for him. So, I mean, the way we looked at Josh Jacobs last year, right? I wrote the article where I was like, you know what, where guys like Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor are going, I don't get why why Josh Jacobs isn't going closer to that. And I'm like, you don't have to draft them ahead of those guys. You shouldn't. You don't need to. But they're going at the 1-2 swing. I'm like, why am I getting Josh Jacobs in the third, right? And he crushed in his new scheme with an emphasis on rushing. I mean, Najee Harris could be this year's Josh Jacobs. Truly.
You know what? I like it. I was talking about this on the show last night. I was doing Smart Fantasy on Sirius XM, and we were kind of grading out the moves. And I gave that, like, this was out of all the running back moves, it was my highest grade, which was a B+. And for everything that you just said through there, I think that is going to be a really nice move for them. And, J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards can move on. You let Najee just tote the rock and be that guy. And I think that just continues to open up what we're going to see from Justin Herbert and company over there. So that's the top move for me. Any of these others like really kind of move the needle? Javonte in Dallas, or because I know the GM Jim Bowden has been pushing and pushing and pushing. I think he's sending texts to Jerry Jones pretty much every day, begging for Ashton Gentry from the Boise State.
He's incredible. This could be, Howard. I've just done my precursory research, and we're going to get all articles out, everything at the end of this month, early April, with all our rookie stuff. But I mean, this could be the deepest running back class since like 2017, right? With like, that was the class with like Kamara, Mixon, McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette. Like, I don't know if any class will ever beat that class, but I mean, there are some big names here. So, I mean, Omarion Hampton, like Travion Henderson, like this is a huge class. So not everyone is safe. And Javonte Williams is one of those guys that isn't. But if you're a Javonte Williams fan, like let's say you were one of those guys that went and traded if one of those guys that traded for him back when he was like RB3 on Keep Trade Cut, when people were way over their skis. But like, you know what? If you were rooting for him, this is probably the best spot for him to land, outside the Chargers. But once the Chargers came off the table, where else could you be the starting back? And the fact that they're opting for him over Rico Dowdle tells me that either they don't believe in Rico Dowdle, in which case there's a potential that whoever the running back is can succeed, or Rico Dowdle is asking for way too much money, right? Like, it's one or the other.
I'd like to see Schottenheimer incorporate Javonte as a pass catcher more, right? Yeah. I thought we were going to see that a little bit more in Denver, and maybe it's his pass blocking, which is why they were so in on Jaleel McLaughlin over there in Denver. But I would like to see just the opportunity. I mean, again,
the thing is, Javonte quietly caught the sixth most passes of any running back just because it's Joe Lombardi. But they rotated him. Like if it was a true Joe Lombardi offense with a single back, he would have got 100 targets, right? Because that's what he does. So you're right. They didn't use him enough. I want to see that. I would just one more time, because he is fairly young. Of all these guys, he is easily the youngest. I think he's still 24. Might have turned 25 recently, but like everybody else is 26, 27. And then for those asking, the Jordan Mason, Elijah Mitchell deals, those were the same thing. They were restricted free agents, which means they had 3 years in the league. But which undrafted guys. So you can go in and actually use a tender to keep them. They could have used an original round tender, which would have been $3 million, but then anyone could have signed them. They used the second round tender, which pays them $5 million, and other teams can technically sign them, but they would need to give the 49ers or the Steelers a second round pick to do that. Nobody's doing that, right?
No.
I mean, we've seen it before. One time the Patriots did that with Wes Welker, and they ended up just trading in him Welker for a second and a seventh. But like, no one's trading a second for Jordan Mason. Like,
a backup for a backup QB, a backup RB. No, definitely
now
not.
The 49ers still could trade Jordan Mason. They could trade him for like a third or a fourth or fifth now, but like it probably just locks these guys into keeps them. And for Jaylen Warren, you mentioned it. The Kenneth Gainwell signing is interesting because I've seen people read it two ways. I've seen people read it of like, this is just going to be a big committee. I've also seen people read it of like, wait a second, they view Jaylen Warren as like the starting back, and they're bringing in a guy to help on pass downs a little bit. Like, this is a good thing for Warren. I mean, I don't know how to really.
Right, but Jaylen Warren looks great catching passes. Like he was the nice compliment to Najee. Not that Najee couldn't catch passes, but you still had a little bit more versatility with Jaylen Warren. You got good speed out of him. So
if I was going to sit down and look at Kenneth Gainwell, which I did this offseason, and rank the like every spot from most likely to least likely, the Steelers would have been in the bottom 5. Because this is a team that has a pass catching back and doesn't have an early down back. So it's a very, very surprising landing spot. I mean, I know he returns kicks, but they have Cordero Patterson. It's like, this is the one that confuses me the most out of all these, because there were so many teams that could have used Kenneth Gainwell.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Like a lot.
Again, Arthur Smith doing Arthur Smith type things, or at least, begging for
confusing.
I need 3 more tight ends and 4 more backup running backs.
He's like, he does that though. It's like, okay, we have this guy we like. Let's get a second one. Like, why do you need Darnell Parham? You have Darnell Washington. You already have that exact player. It's like it's very strange to me. Yeah. I mean, beyond that, did any of these guys move the needle for you, Howard?
No, I think we can move on from the running back position. It is what it is. And, we know who the explosive guys are. Najee, Aaron Jones staying with the Vikings. Okay, fine. Good. He's going to be a good, like, 4th or 5th round pick for you in your draft. Najee Harris, good spot there. Maybe a 3rd or a 4th round pick as well. Because, people just sit there and ignore a guy just based off of his name. Nobody else at the position really moves the needle as far as free agency goes. And there's nobody out there who's like still available, right? I mean, you talk about Dobbins, Dowdle, Kareem Hunt, Cam Akers. Nobody out there is really moving the needle for me at all.
Let me throw some landing spots real quick before we move on.
Do it.
J.K. Dobbins to the Broncos, maybe. I mean, as far as guys that can catch passes. Nick Chubb, ready for this? Nick Chubb to the Bears to be the David Johnson to DeAndre Swift's Jahmyr Gibbs in the Ben Johnson offense. It would suck for fantasy. It really would, but it makes a lot of sense in real life. Rico Dowdle to the Raiders while they're kind of just piecing it together.
They don't have anybody.
Yeah. And then, I mean, Kareem Hunt back to the Chiefs, right? It's like, and then after that, you're into Cam Akers and Gus Edwards and Alexander Madison, where if that group of guys, if you're rooting for your running back to be the starter, you want them to sign Alexander Madison because he's not any good. And he's not going to take any high. There's never going to be a situation where the running back coach says, man, this is a big play. Let's send Alexander Madison out there. So if you're rooting for your guy to get if you're a Giants fan rooting for Tyrone Tracy, you want them to sign Alexander, exactly. Khalil Herbert. Like, just pick Gus Edwards. Yeah, like that's what you want, right? You just want the room to be filled with the least threatening possible players.
So Madison's landing spot is indicative of a strong RB1 as somebody else.
It increases the value. It increases the value of whatever backs are on the team he lands.
It's the T. Higgins climb that hill narrative again, right? It's the analysis. It's the hill analysis.
Exactly.
Shout out to the boys for NBA, John Impemba and James Grande, who have also found out that when Donovan Mitchell tweets out, let's get him, or let him, or whatever the tweet is. There's a Donovan Mitchell tweet that he does on days that he plays. So
Wow,
your
I
Hill
like that.
analysis is like, it's creating a little trickle down here for
Fantasy
other
alarm
sports as well.
on the forefront. Fantasy alarm. Social media detectives. Let's go.
Social media detectives. Let's get down to the wide receivers here, because this is an exciting position here right now. Chris Godwin, we appreciate him staying with the Bucs. That kind of helps his value there. We don't have to re-examine certain things. But here we go. Davante Adams to the Rams. What's your take?
I love it, because there are certain teams, not all. I mean, we know that very rare to have 3 guys on one team get 100+ targets. But if teams are willing to just give the ball to 2 guys every play, or 3 guys every play, which this team will, it will be Puka Nacua, Davante Adams, and Kyron Williams, right? Because Tyler Higbee is going to start. There's no good tight ends out there. The wide receiver 3, Tutu Atwell, who cares? I mean, I'll be drafting both players. I don't care. I think it's just going to be one of those situations where it's like Evans, Godwin, Chase, Higgins, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Puka Nacua, Davante Adams.
Yeah, but let me ask you this then. Last year it was supposed to be Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. When they got on the field together, like, we didn't see, and maybe it was because they were running Kyron Williams pretty heavily in the latter part of the season there, but we didn't see each guy landing 12 targets. And the problem that I have here is that if Puka Nacua is still commanding 12 to 15 targets per game, which he should, right? Where does that leave Davante Adams with a target share? And given how, crybaby-ish he gets when he's not seeing the targets that he wants, does that upset the apple cart there a little bit in Los Angeles?
I think Davante Adams, well in advance, already made sure the landing spot is one where he can get the ball a ton. And he immediately came in and said, "Hey, Puka, you're wearing my number. I'll take that." So he will be wearing number 17. Puka Nacua will be wearing number 12. I think a hierarchy is already being established. And we've seen Davante Adams in the past. One time after, so when Howard says that Davante Adams is a crybaby, here's what he's talking about. One time after a Raiders game in 2023, where the Raiders won, Davante Adams told reporters that I need to get the ball more. This isn't what it's supposed to look like. And the standard for myself is not winning games. The standard for myself is greatness, right? Like, in the most eloquent way possible, he said, "I'm playing for the name on the back of the jersey. I don't care if the Raiders win, because my goal is to be great." I think that he would not have signed there if he can't if he's not going to expect a huge chunk of targets. I think it's just going to be the 2 of them. And I think the reason it didn't happen last year, Howard, I think is Cooper Kupp he's just not Cooper. He's not the guy he was when he had the greatest wide receiver fantasy season of all time. He's just not that guy anymore. It stinks, because I like Cooper Kupp.
I like Cooper Kupp as well. It's going to be very interesting to see where he does land when the Rams do eventually release him, which is imminent right now. Yeah. Imminent. We'll see some really good spots potentially opening up for him. You've got 4 already. Who are they?
I'm saying 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock is when they're going to release him.
4 o'clock is when.
And you know that there's going to be a frenzy. There's going to be an attack on his agent, right? Like, I mean, all of a sudden it's going to be like contract.
Yeah, because it's a bunch of teams. I mean, Cowboys, right? Like, I mean, the Patriots, obviously teams like the Patriots that have nothing, right? You like, people are like, "Oh, Cooper Kupp and Keenan Allen are too old to bring in." It's like, how about we bring in somebody that knows what they're doing? And just, you know what I mean? Like, bring in one guy who knows what he's doing, and then now every other guy on the team can learn what it's like to be a professional. Yeah. Because Jalen Polk doesn't know it, right? Javon Baker doesn't know it. Jalen Polk couldn't keep his mouth shut about having the best hands in the league, and then he dropped everything. It's like, if Keenan Allen was in that room, do you think he says anything? No chance, dude. So, like, that's they do. I wouldn't mind it. You got the money, so yeah, I don't mind that at all.
All right, well, let's roll through a couple of these here, see where what moves the needle for you. You mentioned DeAndre Hopkins, 1-year deal with the Ravens. I don't know how you feel about that. Hollywood Brown.
Perfect spot. DeAndre Hopkins, perfect spot for him to be a part-time player, because they rotate everyone, and he is a part-time player. So yeah, for his career longevity and the ring chasing, good for fantasy. Nah.
I think he's going to be what they had hoped that Deontay Johnson was going to be when they first traded for him, right? When they first brought him in, part-time player, good at contested catches, low A dot, help move the chains.
Wants to win.
What's that?
Right? Wants to win.
Wants
Which
to
that
win.
I think that was the problem with Deontay Johnson. He wants the ball. He doesn't necessarily, he wants to play every play.
Yeah.
Where DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think he cares about that.
So give me your favorite landing spots for some of these guys. Josh Palmer, Darius Slayton, Hollywood Brown.
I hate those. I think that those were those are just bad. I just hate those moves, dude. I mean, like Darius Slayton actually to the Giants is fine. It's good news for Malik Neighbors because he's the sacrificial X. He plays on the outside. He doesn't need 10 targets. Like if you're rooting for Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors, he's the lesser of the evils out there. And also probably stops them from drafting somebody because now they have their 3 wide receivers. It's good for Theo Johnson. It's good for everybody else because he's like a good run blocker, all that. Josh Palmer, this is I hate to say this, and hopefully I'm proven wrong because I have Palmer still in the league, but this feels a lot like Marquez Valdez-Scantling all over again, where it's like you look at the guy and you say, man, he couldn't succeed with an unlimited number of targets available with Justin Herbert. But maybe if we just keep shuffling him around to different elite quarterbacks, he'll be good all of a sudden. I mean, why wasn't he good with Justin Herbert? Why was Marquez Valdez-Scantling good with Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes or or Josh Allen? It's like I just don't know if Josh Palmer is all of a sudden going to turn into a new guy. Like Josh Allen's not that.
He's an interchangeable cog. He is. You want to talk about the Spider-Man meme? Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Josh Palmer. I mean, none of these guys. Right. It's a team that lost its one in Stephon Diggs and has never replaced it. And the problem is that Joe Brady, the offense that he runs, he doesn't like featuring one guy. He likes the interchangeable cogs in the machine.
Right, and it's like if you were trying to like put a fire under Keon Coleman, you sign a guy to a 1-year deal. 3 years, $36 million. I don't know. I don't know if I like that. No, I don't think I like it. Hollywood Brown to the Chiefs is a weird one. Just to mention that it was announced that Xavier Worthy was arrested. Then it was announced that Hollywood Brown is back. And then it was announced that Xavier Worthy is not in trouble. So now they end up with 3 guys in Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, and Xavier Worthy, none of which can play split end. And they like using 2 tight end sets, obviously. That could be a rotation nightmare too. I think Rashee Rice is fine. I think that Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy could butt heads for snaps and targets a bit.
You're gonna continue to see, and maybe Matt Nagy does like using 3 receiver sets. He really does, and I don't think Andy Reid's gonna stop him too much on it. What you're going to see, and this is what's gonna bum a lot of people out, is that Xavier Worthy is going to continue with that short A dot roll where they give him like the quick 2-yard out run, get him the ball, and let him try and pick up yards after the catch. Like we saw him, 5, 6, 7 targets per game just in that vein. Whereas I think Hollywood Brown stretches the field a little bit more. Maybe they just use him as a primary field stretcher and let Rashee Rice handle the intermediary work.
Yep. I think, and again, it's like it could be hard for them all to play every snap with Noah Gray and Travis Kelce. So I don't know. I don't know if I love it. The last one I'll just mention is that it's kind of interesting. DeMarcus Robinson to the 49ers. I don't know what it tells you about Brandon Ayuk. Also, they got rid of Kyle Juszczyk, where they planned to, and maybe they're going away from the fullback and going to more 3 wide receiver sets. I don't know. That's a deeper cut one. For the remaining guys, Cooper Kupp or Keenan Allen, maybe to the Cowboys. Although people keep making that rumor, but CeeDee Lamb, they like him in the slot. So I think they should go for somebody like a Brandon Cooks, Tyler Lockett, Tim Patrick, somebody on the outside. I think they need somebody on the outside. You got Amari Cooper. I'm thinking, it's hard to say. Patriots. If you're looking for part-time players, like if Amari Cooper and DeAndre Hopkins are part-time players, why not the Lions, right? As an upgrade from Tim Patrick, and you have Amon-Ra St. Brown and J-Mo as full-time guys, and then he's your wide receiver 3. Could be overkill, but that's a spot. Deontay Johnson, I will say, that is one where the Patriots do make sense, because if he's going to cry about snaps and targets, they can give him that. You know what I mean? If it's an ego thing, that's one of the few teams that can actually say, hey, you know what? We'll make you the guy. Yeah, just come here. Just like someone, please come here. Because like Mac Hollins is not doing it.
What about a landing spot for Stephon Diggs? Coming back from the knee injury.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to bite.
Probably the most valuable player available, I would say, even coming off the knee injury, because he's still like, Keenan Allen's 34, right? Like Stephon Diggs can come back and play at a high level. And the T probably should be back with the Texans because they need 3 wide receivers for Nick Caley's system. Tank Dell, unfortunately, probably not going to play. But I mean, the one place that would be complete chaos for fantasy, for dynasty, for everything is the Green Bay Packers. Because you throw an alpha wide receiver into that pool of dudes, and it's just like, boy. But Josh Jacobs said, "Hey, we need a guy. We need a wide receiver one." And Jaden Reed's never played more than 75% of the snaps. Romeo Doubs and Dontavian Wicks in 5 years have never had a 100+ yard regular season game. Romeo Doubs had one in the playoffs. Christian Watson's dad came out and said he could miss the whole year. So I mean, they got to do something. I think that team needs alpha. So Diggs to the Packers would be chaos. Big fantasy would not like that.
Big fantasy would hate that. How about this one here? Because I was expecting to see them maybe look to upgrade on the Quentin Johnston deal. What about the Chargers? Yeah. Could Stephon Diggs fit with the Chargers? Because you've got Ladd McConkey, who, great on the outside, great in the slot as well. You just make, Stephon Diggs that X receiver over there. Does that work for you?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing with Diggs, if they also then go and sign like a sacrificial X, another like just a split end to be a part-time guy to go out and just get beat up, like Olamide Zacchaeus, right? Then you can just run multiple tight ends and Zacchaeus and let Diggs and McConkey go in motion and interchange at slot flanker. Like that would be actually awesome. But we can't have that happen because, as we kind of alluded to earlier in the show, I like the Chargers as a potential landing spot for a tight end. I think that Greg Roman has had a top 5 all-time season on his resume with Mark Andrews in that kind of big slot type role. I think that's a spot where an Everett Ingram could go. I think that's a spot where a Tyler Warren or Colston Loveland could go. So up there with the Broncos, I think the Chargers are a good tight end landing spot.
Okay. All right. Well, let's get to it here. Usually we cut this show in an hour. We're going to have to go over a little bit.
Just here. A couple minutes.
You got a couple of tight end whisperers here ready to talk some tight end free agency. So, let's dive into it right now and hit it with the signing. So Juwan Johnson stays with the Saints. Mike Gesicki stays with the Bengals. Luke Farrell to the 49ers doesn't move anything needle for me. Johnny Munt to the Jags. Bleh. Hunter Long to the Jags. Bleh. Durham Smythe to the Bears. Bleh. Like nothing good really coming out of that. Although, yeah, I don't know, man. Do you have any
first question here? First question. Where are the Saints getting money from at all? Where do the Saints have 3 years, $30 million for Juwan Johnson?
The salary cap, right? They raised the cap this year again.
Dude, they were 50, even with the cap raise, they were 50 million over. I mean, like, where I know they're going to cut Taysom Hill, but I mean, like, they're spending right now. They also signed, Chase Young. They signed Justin Reed. I mean, like, what is Mickey Loomis doing, dude? I'm just like, he's got to go. He's got to go, dude. But, dude, you know what? Good for Juwan Johnson. Highest paid free agent tight end. Juwan Johnson. He's never even been a full-time player. Maybe he will be now, but, like, did he learn to block over the last month?
I hope so.
I don't understand it. Great for his fantasy value because Rashid Shaheed's going to miss the start of the season.
Right.
At the least. Chris Olave's there.
I mean, I don't even know. I mean, that dude's got scrambled eggs in his head now.
So I'm saying Juwan Johnson's going to be their slot wide receiver. I mean, at $30 million, if they're paying him $10 million a year, he has to be. So there you go. Mike Gesicki back to the Bengals. People are celebrating that. Gesicki fans, that's terrible for his fantasy value.
Oh, it is. Well, with T. Higgins being franchised, absolutely, it's terrible.
Terrible. You wanted him to go to the Broncos, right?
Yes.
Like there's only so many teams that will use a big slot player. They want that. That's why 27-year-old Devon Vele and Lil Jordan Humphrey were playing snaps. You wanted Gesicki to go be that guy. You didn't want him to be the third wide receiver, third pass catcher on any team. You're just not good.
Yeah.
Fine for best ball, I guess, but just no. And then Luke Farrell, he's just a replacement for. He got a lot of money. You know, I was joking that on Twitter that's just the going rate for former Jaguars blocking tight ends. So they just looked at whatever Josh Oliver got with the Vikings and said, okay, that's
All
it.
right, we'll do that.
3 years, $20 million. But I think he's going to be there. Like Eric Saubert was their blocking tight end. He actually played a lot of snaps, and he also had to fill in for 2 full games for Kittle, and he only caught 3 passes over those games. So they looked at Eric Saubert and said, hey, we need somebody that can block but also catch like a little bit, and that's what Luke Farrell is. So that's what that is. Don't worry about it in fantasy.
All right. So not a lot of action there, but let's talk about potential landing spots here. We've got.
Ooh, let me throw one thing out there.
Oh.
You know, we were talking about Alexander Madison going to a team, and that's good for the starter.
Yeah.
The Jaguars signing Johnny Munt and Hunter Long is great news for Brenton Strange. The more guys you put in that room that don't catch the football well, the better it is for the guy that does. So if they're going to fill out that room with nobodies, how many tight ends can they have, Howard? They have 3 now. Are they going to bring in a 4th, a 5th? I think that's good news for Brenton Strange.
Who's going to have the better tight end core, the Steelers or the Jaguars?
The Steelers. I mean, put it this way. I would take the Steelers group in a fight. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Darnell Washington alone.
They got some big boys over there. They got some big fellas over there. So that's where I'm going with that one.
All right, so let's kind of wrap up some tight ends here with landing spot. Well, you said Evan Engram. You like Evan Engram to the Chargers. I don't. If they don't get another
Broncos won. Yeah,
Broncos definitely won as the Joker role. Like
Broncos won.
I think that's an important landing spot. I like him with the Chargers if they don't get another big wide receiver. Like if they leave the receiver core the way it is, and then they add Engram, then it's a different story.
Then it's Engram's Mark Andrews and Lad McConkey is Zay Flowers.
Exactly.
Right? Which is just that's why it's an awesome spot.
Yeah.
You could also throw out the Jets as a team that don't have a lot of wide receivers.
You could throw out the Jets.
You know. That reminds me of the Adam McKay coaching quote where they were like, what did you think about your offensive line's execution today? And he said, I'm in favor of it. So yeah, I mean, like Evan Engram, and then Gerald Everett's floating around. Now, the Gerald Everett to the Broncos, as much I would hate it, but at the same time, that's the one thing that would get out the buzzers and resuscitate his any value for him, right?
I guess. I don't know.
So enough so that you could trade him before the draft. Enough so that you could trade him. But I'm just talking about who could you even use a player like that, And then outside of that, who even is a good two-way tight end? Tyler Conklin can block, and Tyler. You know where I want Tyler Conklin to go? The Colts, because I like Michael Pittman. I like Josh Downs. I don't necessarily think it's a great landing spot for a rookie, and I think that if Tyler Conklin goes there, it'll prevent because we're kind of fantasy wishing certain rookies into certain spots. I don't want them to go to the Colts, so throw Conklin over the Colts. I think that'd be a good spot for him.
Beautiful. All right. As we wrap up the show here today, Coop, you want to splash anything in on defense or offensive line or anything like that?
Yes, Vikings are beefing up the offensive line. Will Fries and Ryan Kelly. Those are good players. The Bears signed Drew Dahlman at center. They traded for Joe Thuney. We want to know who's loading up at O-line. Go look at Todd Gurley's stats the second year of his career, and then look at the stats the very next year when they added Andrew Whitworth. We're talking the exact same number of carries. He went from 800 yards to 1,300 yards. So the O-line matters. Dan Malin, our guy, is going to obviously do his offseason after the draft and everything for our draft guide. He does an incredible job telling you where that could happen. But Vikings, good. Bears, good. Jaguars added Robert Hainsey, Patrick McCarry. Packers added guard Aaron Banks for big money, and there's some debate on whether that's a good move or not. But hey, at least we're trying. Defense, like I said, like I've always said, Howard, defense wins championships. So I've been such a big defense wins championship guy. So the Patriots offseason has been great. Mac Hollins on offense, but Milton Williams, Carlton Davis, Harold Landry. Okay.
Carlton Davis is one of the worst cover corners out there, dude.
Carlton Davis,
He was terrible.
Great tackling.
He was so bad that
it's a system thing. No, it's a system thing.
The Lions got to develop Terrion Arnold a little bit more because everyone was so busy throwing.
They play more man to man than any team in the league. Patriots gonna play zone. Don't worry about that. Cold secondary definitely juiced up, right? Cameron Bynum and Charvarius Ward.
Charvarius Ward.
Giants secondary, right? Javon Holland and Paulson Adebo. I mean, like, Vikings are making moves. Cardinals making moves. Joey Bosa to the Bills. People want to hear big names. There you go.
He's the new Von Miller, right?
There it is. Von Miller is also available. So there you go, everybody. Panthers are making some moves. They got Trayvon Moehrig, who I think is a very good safety. Beyond that, nothing really mega for fantasy, but yeah, that's it, dude. Pretty good. There's a lot going on. Make sure you check out I have a tracker going where I'm doing a little note on anything I think is fantasy relevant. So every player on offense over at Fantasy Alarm. So free agency tracker, we'll let you know what's going on there. But that's about it for me, Howard.
Yeah, I would say do yourselves a favor. Go to fantasyalarm.com, click on the NFL tab, and that'll bring you to the NFL page. The NFL free agent tracker is right there. Click it, bookmark it, and you'll be able to just keep checking back. Coop's got updates going on at every position. It's organized by position now at this point, as opposed to the date of when it's happening. So, bookmark that page, jump in on the analysis. Like I said, go and check out his full free agent series. If you're a dynasty fantasy football player and you're not using this series as a great way to brace yourself for the NFL draft, you're making a big mistake. I'll say it right there. You're making a big mistake.
I wrote 80,000 words on that. That's like a James Patterson book. Okay. So I thought
it was a Harry Potter book before. We were going to change your name to A.R. Cooper instead of J.K. Rowling.
I did look at it. So Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is 78,000 words. That's about the length of this. So we covered it all. And what we're going to do is now, as these pieces come in, we're going to flip it over like a pancake. Bang. We did all the research before, found all the holes. We're seeing where they're filled. And then after that, come on the other side, mock draft, right? What are the must fill spots? Who has the top picks? Where's that going to help us? That's how we do it here at Fantasy Alarm. And that's why we win the awards, right?
That is exactly how we win the wars, right? Great season 2 years ago, even better season last year. Brace yourself. Fantasy championships all coming your way here in 2025. But that's going to do it for us here today. Again, thank you so much. On your way out, go over to the YouTube page and click that like button. And if you don't want to miss any of the shows here, whether it's NFL, MLB, NBA, we've got you 100% covered over here at the Fantasy Alarm YouTube page. So just hit that subscribe button and join the family today. But for now, we're going to be out of here. For Andrew Cooper, I'm Howard Bender. This has been Alarm Fantasy Football.